G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright, people, this week Oleksandr Usyk, Anthony Joshua, the rematch, part 2 of the prediction, because for those who didn't see, and there was a good few who locked in for the original one, Sky took issue with some of the clips that were in it. I don't know why, because it had already been uploaded prior to that, and normally they're pretty quick to flag what they don't like, but look, it is what it is. Won't be any clips in this one. You'll just have to hear me talk. I like putting, when I do these technical little breakdowns, little snippets, I like putting little snippets in, but we just won't do it this time. Let me talk about this fight. Oleksandr Usyk, Anthony Joshua. We go through the tail of the tape. Oleksandr Usyk, 35 years old, 6'3", 78-inch reach, 19-0 with 13 KOs, undefeated, undisputed cruiserweight champion, unified heavyweight champion, absolutely tremendous fighter. We could go on and on and on about Oleksandr Usyk, what he brings to the table, the skill he has. We talk about Anthony Joshua as well, 32 years old, 6'6", 82-inch reach, 24-2 with 22 knockouts in those 24 wins. AJ has really, when you look at his record, 24-2, his 26 pro fights. When you look at how much has happened in them, you're kind of like thinking, that's crazy. I think if you had said to me back in 2014, when AJ would be about 20-0, would he have a world title shot? I would have said possibly, depending on the landscape of the division then. But the fact that he's been able to, in so few fights, do so much. He's looking to become a 3-time heavyweight champion. Very few have done that in the sport. Ali has done it, Holyfield has done it, Lewis has done it. I think that's it. Klitschko, both Klitschkos are 2-time heavyweight champions. I think, anyway, pretty sure they are. So it's not been done much in the sport of boxing. Very few have done it. AJ is looking to do it. Oleksandr Usyk looking to retain his titles and is obviously seeking undisputed. Potentially we will get to see the winner of this fight take on Tyson Fury. If he decides to stay on, we'll wait and see about that. But we want to talk about this fight. I want to go into detail on what both guys I think will bring to the table, what both guys will do, and what I think just the prediction will be. Now, if you'd seen the first one I did, if you got to the end of it, which you probably mightn't have, because I think once it got acclaim, I was just like, gone. Sorry for anyone who was enjoying it, but gone. I'm not having a claim video sticking up under it because it causes issues, and that was just going straight away. So you'll know what I picked, but we'll do it again on this one, and you'll know my 2 cents on what I think both guys need to do to win. In terms of Oleksandr Usyk, what he needs to do to win. Now, it's easy to say Usyk needs to do what he did last time and he'll win. It's very easy to say that. It's also very easy to say AJ needs to change up his game. Alright? Now with Usyk, he's looking to come in, just judging by the pictures we've seen, he is looking to come in a little bit heavier. I heard Amir Khan say Usyk he's put on like 15 kg or something like that. I don't know about that. But he said he's trying for power. And you know something, I don't discount that. And I think Usyk is an intelligent fighter. I think Usyk is intelligent. And I think that Oleksandr Usyk probably would have looked at the first Anthony Joshua fight, and he would have known that he did a lot to win. He did enough to win that fight. He did more than enough. As you would see in the 12th round, in the last few seconds, Usyk had plenty left in the tank. He could have brought that out earlier. He could have put it on AJ like he did earlier. And as I said, if there had been another 15-20 seconds, we might have seen AJ certainly at least get dropped, maybe even get taken out. Who knows? So Usyk, I think, knows himself. There's more in his tank to give. However, I do think if Oleksandr Usyk looked at the Anthony Joshua fight, he would have been scratching his head, like many of us were, at how Howard Foster had it so close, and how rounds like round 1, where AJ did literally nothing, and Usyk landed the eye-catching shots, he still managed to give that round to Anthony Joshua. Oleksandr Usyk and his team are very smart. They're not stupid. They know that going in there against Anthony Joshua, judging by some of the scorecards, obviously one was perfect, the other one was still a bit close, and the Howard Foster one was just a joke. They must know that, hang on a sec, we're the champion, but he is still the guy. I'm not a DAZN fighter, I'm not a Matchroom fighter. AJ is a DAZN fighter. I know this is going to be on Sky, But thereafter, AJ is a DAZN fighter. DAZN are going to be pumping God knows how much money into Anthony Joshua, into everything. They want him to win. All right, so I'm sure he's not stupid and he's thinking, I cannot even so much as take that kind of risk of even if I outbox him. And I know in the first fight he outboxed him to the extent where you just couldn't have gone any other way. But you just don't know in boxing. I mean, we've seen some bizarre scorecards this year. Even fighters who've won, like Dimitri Bivol, very razor close scorecards, which it shouldn't have been. Should have been a clear win. But that's the way boxing is. Unfortunately, you see it from the smallest of the small halls to the biggest stage of them all. You will see some absolutely farcical scorecards. And if you're a student of the game, you'll know that. And you should know that you should take no chances. You can't take a chance like that. So I think Usyk is training for power. And I think that Usyk, if you look at the first round against Anthony Joshua, and I think that this fight, in the first round, we will have a good gauge on how this fight is going to go based upon the first round. A lot of times in fights, first rounds can be a bit, you can never read that much into it. Depends. But in the first fight, Usyk, in the first 10 seconds, was able to get inside on AJ, was able to push AJ back just with the jab, just with head movement. He was able to get AJ on the back foot and establish his right jab. He's able to do that within the first 10 seconds. You see it with the head movement. He kind of has a little move to the side, steps in with his, and AJ straight away backs up. And AJ was looking at that time in that first fight to establish the jab. So if you look at Usyk in the first round of this fight, whatever he comes out with doing, it'll give you a good gauge to how it's going to go. All right. Now, with Oleksandr Usyk, I suspect he is going to be looking to get the left hand working from early. At the end of the day, AJ is what he is. He may try and change things up a little bit, but he's not going to be Pernell Whitaker. He's not going to move his head, he's not going to move his head like Mike Tyson, on a pendulum. He's not going to be Pernell Whitaker slick. He's just not going to do that. So Oleksandr Usyk knows where the target is. He's not going to have to. He's going to be training, inspiring, obviously, to get it. And obviously, when he's in there with AJ, this is round number 13. He would be familiar enough with what AJ does and probably remember. Usyk's a very smart fighter. He probably remembers some of the things that AJ's done. So you would imagine he's going to look to get that left hand going straight away. He's going to look to land it down the pipe, but I also think he's going to look to land it to the body as well, which is what he was doing quite effectively in the first fight. There was times where AJ was trying to box with Usyk. He was trying to keep his range. He would hold his hands up, and you'd see Usyk just he'd be kind of faking up and head to body with the jab in hand, and just throw a left hand to the body. And as I said, AJ in the body, heavyweights don't tend to focus on the body. The one time we've ever seen AJ's body really get, I was going to say attacked, but we've ever seen AJ's body get worked on was in the Dillian Whyte fight. And we've seen how uncomfy that made AJ, as well as being buzzed. But it did seem to make him a little bit uncomfy. And I do wonder, if a fighter puts a sustained body attack on Anthony Joshua, how would he fare? I mean, this is a fighter, Anthony Joshua, who has never shown amazing stamina. And if you start going to his body, hitting that body, banging that body, then you're going to empty the gas tank even quicker. And I wonder how AJ would cope. I also wonder, from Anthony Joshua's corner point of view, how that will go. Because you got to figure, with Robert Garcia and with Angel Fernandez there, they seem to be okay. But what happens if there's a crisis in this fight? What happens if AJ gets dropped, right? And Robert Garcia says, you need to do this. And Angel Fernandez says, actually, no, I think you should do this. AJ is a fighter who definitely has a tendency, in my opinion, to overthink. If he has one guy telling him this, one guy telling him this, you could potentially overload him, right? And God knows what he'll do then. He'll come out, like a fish out of water, who knows? Whereas Oleksandr Usyk has that little bit more stability in his corner. Anatoly Lomachenko knows him. He knows him very well. Usyk is kind of like, Hatman spoke about it before, Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones. They just seem to know what to do. They just seem to be in that position in the ring where they just seem to know what to do. And the corner is kind of just there to remind them. I'm not saying Usyk is maybe at that level, but Usyk is the kind of guy where he knows what to do when he's in there. So I definitely think that Oleksandr Usyk, some of the things he's going to need to do in this fight is establish the left hand early on. He's going to want to go to Anthony Joshua's body. He's going to want to feint him, because if you look at the fight, every feint he was throwing in the first fight, Anthony Joshua was biting on. He was biting on every single feint. Whenever AJ would get close and try and rough Usyk up, he knew instantly, cover the mouth, cover the face, back up again the ropes. And Anthony Joshua wasn't setting any of them shots up. The few times where he did buzz him, Chris Andre spoke about it. Usyk was getting pushed back by Anthony Joshua. He was holding his head out and kind of pushing him a bit off balance. I think Chris is right in his assessment that maybe the weight gain isn't just for power, it's also to be a bit more sturdy if that does happen, that if Anthony Joshua does try and maybe lean on him or move him. And some people have been saying maybe AJ is going to come in here and fight a big guy fight, a la Klitschko versus Povetkin, a la Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis. Maybe try something like that. Would he get away with it against Oleksandr Usyk? I don't know. Kind of depends on the referee, I suppose, as well. But I think that they're going to be some of Usyk's key strengths. And at the end of the day, I think Usyk has kind of hinted himself that he knows if he opens up on AJ, he can put him in a world of trouble. AJ has a tendency when people really open up on AJ, and AJ is kind of a bit in no man's land, he just kind of, sometimes he'll try and punch with the opponent, but sometimes he just seems to just freeze and almost like he doesn't know what to do. He'll resort to just throwing like shots to just try and hope and pray something sticks, kind of look to counter. He can be effective with them counters, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't seem to really know much what to do. And Usyk, one of his weaknesses is that when he is opening up on an opponent, he tends to stand with the chest out and the chin up. So he's open for shots, I know his hands are fast, but he is still open for shots, and a good counter puncher, you could have success there. Now we look at AJ and we talk about some of his strengths, right? Usyk is a mover. He has tremendous legs, probably the best legs in the heavyweight division, the best angles, great speed, tremendous footwork, in and out movement. He is the kind of guy who will mentally fatigue you as much as physically fatigue you. So if you look at the first fight, when Usyk was moving around AJ, was giving him angles, AJ was following him. And AJ was looking at a guy who was in front of him 1 minute, he was over there, and then he was over there, and then he was popping him with shots then. That's mentally fatiguing. Because you're trying to stick with this guy. You're trying to keep your stance, keep your arms up, which if you're a big heavyweight like AJ, that's tiring. And this guy is there, and there. And mentally your brain is trying to get that in. It's trying to get in all that information. You're trying to read this guy in time. Because AJ is someone who I think relies a bit on time in his opponents. And he's kind of like, what the hell? What way is he going to be? And when you start thinking, that will take a bit of energy out of you. So AJ needs to be wary of that. He needs to be cognizant of that, right? People are saying he's going to come in more aggressive. Well, I don't think necessarily that's a right or wrong idea. I mean, if you come in aggressive and you try and do what you did against Dylan White in the first round, there's the possibility you get caught, you get tagged, and there's also the possibility that you gas yourself out, which could potentially happen, right? It's a risky strategy. It could work, but it could also backfire. I think that one of his better strategies would be to look at the Oleksandr Povetkin fight and look at what he did in there. How he was able to change up his game plan after a very shaky first few rounds. He got the hand down low, he jabbed Povetkin's body, and he threw right hands up at Povetkin's head. Now, what is the benefit of having your hand down low like that, right? If you're a fighter and I see a guy who's looking to throw the right hand, so I'm focusing on that fighter's right hand, so I know he wants to set up that right hand, but at the same time he has his left hand down there, so I'm looking and I'm waiting for that right hand to come, but at the same time the jab is coming from down there, so I'm looking up for that right hand, the jab's coming from down there. So you're constantly having to think, you've got two targets to look at. And the thing as well about the jab is, when you have it down low like that, it's actually quite easier to hook off the jab. So it means that you're constantly, as the opponent, you're thinking, you're like, and you can hook off a jab. You can hook off a jab and then follow through with a right hand. That's something that a lot of fighters can do. If it's done well, it can really bemuse the opponent, because 1 minute they're thinking, hang on a second, I'm looking at this angle, and then boom, I'm being hit with a straight right. So if AJ could bring that in, and I think that's a very good tool for him, and I think that it would keep Usyk thinking. I think as well, Usyk, as I said, has tremendous legs, so why is he not invested in Usyk's body? It's all well and good to say Usyk can go to AJ's body, but why can't AJ go to Usyk's body? It's not something that we see enough of in heavyweight boxing, it has to be said, and Usyk in the amateurs has been dropped to the body shot, with body shots. We've seen that against Beterbiev. You know, so is there a vulnerability there to the body for Oleksandr Usyk? If AJ doesn't even have to be going and having a massive sustained body attack, even if he's jabbing to Usyk's body and with a right to the head. Povetkin, when he was doing that, Povetkin was looking up at the right hand. The jab to the body was constantly coming in. He was trying to ignore it, and then eventually he would look down, and then there's a right hand coming up on top of that. This is basically how AJ was able to get to Povetkin late on, and those body shots took it out of Povetkin. That fight was not fought at a murderous pace. It wasn't like Povetkin set an insanely high tempo he couldn't follow through with. It wasn't that high. It was just the body shots, the accumulation of body work that Anthony Joshua was doing took it out of Povetkin. Similar dimensions but different style. Right? Similar dimensions but definitely a different style. I think Usyk has better legs. Even prime for prime, he had better legs than Povetkin does. So I think Usyk wouldn't be the kind of guy who would just stay there and let himself get jabbed to the body. He'd be able to probably adjust it on the fly. But it's something that you definitely need to try. If you can take Usyk, even a bit of the speed out of his legs, even a bit of the bounce out of his legs, you've got a chance. Also, said it once, say it again, uppercut, orthodox stance against a southpaw with earmuffs on, that's a must. That's a box you need to tick. Right? That is a box you need to tick. So if Anthony Joshua, because he did try in the first fight, especially in the 9th round, he was trying to get the uppercut off on Usyk. But what was he doing? He was coming in, trying to push Usyk's head down and lead with an uppercut. And Usyk was able to read that. Against Kubrat Pulev, when you see some of the uppercuts he hurt him with, what did he do? Well, he threw out a jab and he came up with it. So he blinded Kubrat Pulev by coming with the jab and then literally saw a little split in the guard because Pulev had the hands up trying to block the jab and was able to come through with the uppercut. He can do that against Oleksandr Usyk. And as I said, a southpaw going up against an orthodox, when an orthodox fighter is throwing an uppercut from the orthodox stance against a southpaw, it is a benefit because the southpaw will have a harder time actually getting to see that shot come. So it's a shot that AJ, I think, needs to throw in this fight against Oleksandr Usyk. He's at a big disadvantage if he doesn't commit to throwing some uppercuts in this fight and setting them up. Not just boring in, hoping for the best. Set the goddamn punch up. Set it up with your jab and come in with the uppercut. And that's what I think AJ needs to do. He needs to be smart, right? All this, I'm a killer, I got the killer instinct. You hang out with AKA skins, right? You need to be smart, right? Be smart. Alright, you want to get your tactics right, you got to be smart. It's all well and good, you look, I'm just going to go there with history, right? You look at medieval battles, right? Was it always the people with the bigger numbers, with the bigger force, who were just going to brute force them? Was it always them who won? No, it wasn't. A lot of times there was people who had bigger numbers, but they lost to people with smaller numbers or armies with smaller numbers. Why was that? Because the tactics on the other end were just better. That's how it is. And you want to compare boxing to medieval warfare, you can, because basically boxing is the modern day equivalent to medieval warfare and the gladiators in the Colosseum. You gotta have to have tactics. You gotta have your brain screwed on. A medieval battle that springs to mind where it's brute force versus tactics. Go back to 1314, Battle of Bannockburn. 20,000 British or English soldiers went up against 8,000 Scottish soldiers. Who won? The Scots. Why did they win? They were smarter. They had the better strategy. The English didn't know what to do. On paper, they should have lost. They didn't. Right? So if you want to go all guns blazing and think that's going to do it, it might very well do it. It may very well. But maybe it's better to be smart. Maybe it's better to be smart and look at what some of my strengths are and some of the things that I've done in the past to get me through fights that I was having a hard time in. Like the jab to the body, like the low left hand, like being patient with your work, like setting up the shots, right? If you want to go in there, brute force the guy, you better hope to God you get him out of there. Because if you exert yourself, again, look at Anthony Joshua versus Klitschko. Look at the first 4 rounds. You tell me it was fought at murderous pace. It wasn't. And AJ exerted himself in the 5th round, was able to get to Vladimir Klitschko, but his breathing was metal, but he could barely hold his hands up after that. Now, Vladimir Klitschko was a naturally cautious fighter anyway. But Oleksandr Usyk isn't. And if he's trading for a knockout, what do you think? He's just going to say to AJ, well, I can outbox you, I'm just going to let you? No, he's not. He's going to go for it. So that's what I think AJ needs to be doing. He needs to be smart and he needs to use his... He's got a reach advantage, for God's sake. Use it. If you have a really good ramrod hard jab, and AJ's jab is alright, but you can you can offset a lot of fighters with your jab. And I think AJ needs to do that. You know, I got to give a pick on this fight. I given my 2 cents on some of the key strengths. AJ, the uppercut, the body work, and the jab to the body. Being calm. It's easier said than done. And believe you me, I know it's easier said than done. But it is easier. It is easier said than done. But if you can be calm in there, not overthink things. Hopefully the corner are on par. They're seeing things. They're reading from the same hymn sheet, and it's good to go. He should have a lot of success in there. With Oleksandr Usyk, tremendous fighter. What Usyk needs to do, similar to what he did, the last time, get the left hand going early. Try and take AJ's jab away early. Lots of movement, lots of in and out footwork. If AJ does decide, I'm going to bully this guy, bit similar to what he did last time, read the situation. Your ring IQ is tremendous. Know what AJ is doing. Know how to get out of range and know how to backtrack. And look, as I said, to set up the left hand. And if the opportunity presents itself, put your foot on the gas and try and get him out of there. Because at the end of the day, Usyk is not stupid. He knows that AJ and the zone, if AJ wins, the zone have made a masterstroke. He might very well fight Tyson Fury in Saudi Arabia. There's a lot of politics involved in this. All right. And that is kind of swaying me to my pick as well. But Usyk, I believe, is going to go in there looking for a knockout. If he gets it, happy days. If he doesn't, I reckon Usyk realistically should win this fight. Realistically, he should win this fight. But based on everything I've talked about, my pick for this fight is a majority decision win for Anthony Joshua. And I think it's going to be controversial. And I wouldn't be shocked if there's rematches ordered. Wouldn't shock me at all. And that's my thoughts on this. Let me know yours. Let me know your thoughts on this. I've actually quite enjoyed doing this preview. I actually think this is a better one than the first one, truth be told. So maybe there's a silver lining. Always is a silver lining in everything, no matter what. Remember that. I actually quite enjoyed doing this one, truth be told. That's my pick. Anthony Joshua. I know some people are going to say, gee, you're such an AJ fanboy. Listen, I've criticised AJ more than my fair share of times. But yet, I've been called a Fury fanboy, Fury hater. The zone. People would say 1 week, I hate the zone, even though I pay for it. And the next week they say, you're such a fanboy, you're trying to suck up to the zone. People can never understand that I don't give a rat's furry ass about what this guy is or what that guy is. It's based upon who I think will win. Right? There are plenty of fighters I don't like. I'll always still pick them if I think they're going to win. You know, I don't think I ever picked against Floyd Mayweather in any fight. I didn't like Floyd Mayweather at all as a person. But that didn't change the fact that he's a tremendous fighter. So that's how I'm seeing it. I think AJ's going to win. Controversial majority decision. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. For now, people, I will leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Smash the like button if you could. Subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. People, I'll talk to you